Dacoits attacked a Hindu temple in Pakistan's southern Sindh province on Sunday. This act of vandalism targeted a place of worship belonging to the minority Hindu community and occurred within a span of less than 2 days since the previous attack. The assailants used a rocket launcher and their actions were preceded by warnings of retaliation against Seema Haider, who had traveled to India to be with her partner from the PUBG game. Joining us on the broadcast would be Aditya Raj Kaul, Zulkarnan Tahir, and from Lahore, Asif Ramiz Dawoodi, and we would also be joined by Nazia Ilahi there. Let me begin with you, Nazia, first. Obviously, how do you see this attack on the minority community worship sites? Plus, this is a repetition time and again.
Exactly. The forcible conversion, child marriage, demolition of temple, threat and deprivement on Hindus, Pakistani Hindus. Terrorism activities are the behavior and nature of the Pakistanis. This is very common. We always heard, we always listened, we always seen these things. Even a few days ago, we saw on many news channels that an anonymous phone call threatened regarding 26/11 again. So this is completely obnoxious. This is also anxious, and our central agencies are working on this. This is very, and we are in hope. But the nature of Pakistani is now upfront, and we can see, and the entire world can see these things.
Right, Aditya. Obviously, you have been following stories like these for a longest period of time. Now, talking about Pakistan and these attacks on minority Hindu communities, not new. What is exactly behind this? How do you read it?
Well, Pankaj, this is not new. Just like you pointed out, for years we have been tracking these developments in Pakistan, where minorities have been targeted, not just Hindus, but Christians, Sikh community members, and several others continuously have faced this onslaught of the Pakistani state. Be it temples, or even we've seen Ahmadiyyas in Pakistan continuously being lynched, attacked, not given any kind of fundamental rights. And essentially, I personally believe, because I've tracked this for years together, that Pakistan in its DNA is a Hindu-hating administration. It's a Hindu-hating society and a Hindu-hating government. So why exactly is the world community, is the United Nations, is the United States watching this silently? Every year, Pankaj, we see a yearly report on global religious minority rights that come out from the United States. While they continue to preach India and several other countries, no statements, no action plan is being planned for Pakistan, where continuously we see Hindus being attacked, Christians being attacked. We see often a forceful abduction of Hindus, Sikh and Christian girls, and then forcibly marrying them off after their conversion to Islam. There is a very radical Islamist called Mia Mithu in Sindh who's involved in these radical preachings and convergence. Why no action has been taken? The Pakistani government, the Pakistan army is not just watching it silently, but is letting it happen. It is a state policy of Pakistan through the Pakistan army to essentially target Hindus, and other minorities in Pakistan. Often, almost every month, we see Sikh shopkeepers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa being attacked similarly. And it's not just religious minorities, even people from other ethnicities. For instance, we saw an Afghan singer being gunned down yesterday in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Who is responsible for that? She had evaded and escaped the clutches of Taliban from Afghanistan in 2021 for a better future in Pakistan. But imagine, she's been backstabbed even in Pakistan by so-called unidentified gunmen. So this is a very, natural process in Pakistan. We saw the case of Seema Haider, who escaped to India to marry her Indian boyfriend. But in revenge, there are bandits and these Islamist zealots who are continuously attacking and trying to instill fear in the Hindu minorities of Sindh.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now, obviously, this begets a question, Aditya, that time and again we have seen this happening, and on international stage, talking about the role of Pakistan, calling out names there. It is very important. Asif Ramiz Dawoodi, foreign affairs expert, joins us there. Mr. Dawoodi, thank you so much for speaking to us. As my colleague Aditya points out, there are names, there are places which are earmarked and are known to be such breeding grounds and thriving grounds for acts like these. How do you believe that India could register its protest, first of all, in that regard, and secondly, the global community can actually call out Pakistan on these fronts?
Well, that's a very good question. There is a correction. I am from India. I'm a proud Indian, and that's a very good question. I can't agree more with Aditya, what he has rightly said about the condition of minorities, or especially Hindus there in Pakistan. Even if you look at the data, and it reduces from, let's say, around 22% to less than 3%, which the global community and the international community and UN and everyone else who talks more about India and the human rights in India, they should have some sort of, devices set. They should try actually to look at the things that's happening there in Pakistan. Now, we talk about terrorism, we talk about extremism, we talk about dacoits and bandits threatening the government there, and the Seema Haider case. I mean, that's one thing, but it's a general practice. It's not something new, as Aditya says. I mean, it's like everybody knows, every country knows what kind of condition there is, and especially when you talk about TTP, when you talk about the kinds of support that the establishment and the local government there, they give and they promote these things. Forget about these things. I mean, this is one thing, and we all know, the world community knows about that the Muslims themselves there in Pakistan, they attack and they kill the other Muslims while they are praying in the mosque. And this is something, right now, what we have seen here, this is something which I strongly condemn. And I invite through your channel the world community's attention that they should focus on this as well. And they should, for the time being, I mean, they have a lot of time to criticize India, to look into the internal matters of India, but they should also try to look into this one in particular, because I am settled I live in the Middle Eastern countries for more than 22 years. And I have seen there are many countries, like, for example, I live in Saudi Arabia and UAE, and you talk about the other countries, they do not promote these extremism. They do not support what is happening there in Afghanistan. But what we see here right now in Pakistan, it's something which is very serious and which is very unfortunate. What is there with the Seema Haider case? I tell you, it's something different. I mean, we have to understand. I mean, perhaps lately we'll know what is the exact story, whether she is a spy or what is happening there. That I don't want to comment on that at this moment. But this is what is happening there in Pakistan. They should stop it. They must stop it immediately. And the government there, which is never sincere about these kinds of attacks, they should take a note of that, and there should be a global pressure on Pakistan on this.
Global pressure on Pakistan, obviously, that's the need of the hour. Nazia, you wanted to make a point. Please go ahead.
Yes, according to the official statement, 75 lakh Hindus live in Pakistan. Earlier, the majority of Hindu in Pakistan was 10%, and right now in 2%. I really want to say these things because this is very important to know each and every person. Mission Seema Haider of Pakistan is now came up an entire world to vanish Hindus from Pakistan. Not only Hindus, the Yahudis, the Wahhabis, even the liberal and vocal Muslims are also under threat inside Pakistan. And this is not, I'm saying virtually, this is on recorded. And the terrorism activities is very renowned. The murdered, the terrorism things like Osama bin Laden, like Asmal Qasab, and blah, blah, blah. So the entire world knows about the terrorism behavior, terrorism activities, terrorism industries of Pakistanis. And we also think about this. The first incident took place on Saturday. I'm talking about the temple. The second incident took place on Sunday, but still no action has been taken by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He just keep shut his mouth regarding these issues.
Right. Aditya, Nazia is raising quite a few pointers there. This political instability in Pakistan has time and again told the world that maybe there is someone else who is pulling the strings. There is GHQ, then there are the clerics, then there are the so-called chosen, elected or selected prime ministers. In your opinion, how does it impact the whole scenario? Lack of a leadership, lack of that command from the center?
Well, Pankaj, firstly, let's be honest, frank, that no matter there is any kind of stability in Pakistan, the real power center is in GHQ Rawalpindi. You pointed towards that, and that is the action center. Even though they had to face massive embarrassment just a few weeks back, when common people actually entered the premises and ransacked GHQ Rawalpindi. Imagine that. Have we ever seen, in the entire world, such a situation where people are so upset that they enter the premises of the army and almost make them run away like rats? So this happened in GHQ Rawalpindi. But I want to point out to the larger issue in Pakistan. Which is an Islamic republic, not a secular republic. There is hardly any democracy in place. We see not just attacks, subjugation of minorities like Hindus, Christians, Sikh and Ahmadiyya. We also see continuous plunder of Balochistan. We see continuous plunder of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And imagine the human rights violations that the Baloch have been suffering for decades together. There are killings, there are rape, there are enforced disappearances of Baloch people, even children, that are happening, not just activists. Similar situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where Punjabis, mostly veterans of the Pakistan army, are being given homes to make terrorists stay as launchpad. And this has been happening for years together, from Kotli to Naushera to Muzaffarabad, Neelam Valley, all these areas, which are being used as launch pads for infiltration. And even though there has been global pressure, hardly anything has changed. Today, most terrorists, including Syed Salahuddin, Masood Azhar, and others of Lashkar-e-Toiba, are underground. But there is continuous fear in the minorities because the society is such. And such is the blinkers that the government, the state, and the administration is wearing. So we see continuous attacks on temples. We see temples being sold off, land being taken over by land mafia. Through government control. And finally, we see these rampant killings, rampant human rights violations in Pakistan. And nobody in the world dares to ask questions to Pakistan army, to Pakistani state, that when will this end? Why not put, pressure on them? And there should be repercussion, there should be consequences for Pakistan whenever such action happens. And perhaps the global community, which is busy with other issues, for example, the European Parliament discussing Manipur. Why not discuss the situation of minorities in Pakistan? And of course, the United States and the United Nations as well.
True, Aditya, and this goes without saying, if we talk about the global community, the role of, United Nations, FATF, the way Pakistan was given, a clean sheet again from its grey listing there. All these things, European Parliament that you mentioned, are something that beget a very basic question. Is the whole narrative being misguided as of now? Mr. Dawoodi, we saw Prime Minister Modi was in Abu Dhabi just a few days back, and the kind of reception he got, the kind of ratification, I would say, of India's stand as far as the minorities are concerned, it seizes and silences all the critiques there. In your opinion, the role of Pakistan for vis-a-vis the role of India as far as the minorities are concerned, how is it being viewed outside of India, outside of Pakistan? You'll have to mute yourself, sir. Thank you.
And there are narratives, especially those who have the anti-India sentiments. They always try to project the conditions of minorities in India in a bad way. And they try to avoid, they do not look at the actual situation that what is happening there in Pakistan. Let me tell you one thing. I am from India. And I live in the Gulf countries for more than 22 years. And right from my childhood, I have seen the kind of life the minorities have here in India, and the kind of support, the love we get from the inclusivity that I'm talking about. It cannot be seen any part of the world. I have traveled in different countries and I have seen, I don't want to criticize other countries, but I have to say that what is happening here and what kind of life we have here, the meritocracy, you talk about the opportunities that everybody gets, and you talk about the world leaders inviting us, and at the same time, there are some adversaries. They always try to pick a few things from India, and they have their own vested interest. Don't they see what is happening in Kashmir? They continuously they try to derail things there, and they have some sort of proxies. You talk about the establishment there, right? Very rightly mentioned by Mr. Kaur Aditya about the attacks. I mean, it's not seen anywhere, any part of the world, what happened in Pakistan a few months ago, I think a few weeks ago. And that is the actual picture shown by Imran Khan himself. Like, we know that the monster created by the establishment themselves, and the world knows, but nobody wants to talk about that. When it comes to minorities in India, and I tell you, right now I'm visiting in India, I'm in India right now, and I have seen the things here. I mean, there could be problems. There are problems, and there must be some, when there is a country where we have 1.4, 100 billion population, the biggest population, there would be some problems in different states, different communities, etc. But the thing here is that those who have some vested interest, they always try to misinterpret. They have some kind of narratives, and they present things in a different way, and they don't look what is happening there in Pakistan.
They don't look what is happening inside. So, introspection. Zulkarnan Tahir, political correspondent Dawn from Lahore, joins us. Welcome, Zulkarnan, to News9 Live. My name is Pankaj Mishra. The gentleman who was speaking before you was Asif Ramiz Dawoodi. He's a foreign affairs expert. And Nazia Ilahi Khan is also there. She's a social activist. Zulkarnan, if you could hear us, would request you to please switch on your camera. Well, looks like Zulkarnan. Right. Yes, Zulkarnan, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yes, Zulkarnan. So please bring us up to speed with what has happened with the temple attacks in Pakistan. Unfortunate as it is, I'm sure the legal authorities would have taken action by now.
But more unfortunate aspect is this, that the PPP government in Sindh, which claims itself a liberal kind of government, but in fact, you see, this been happening. I mean, attacks on minorities, the minority girls, especially Hindu girls, abduction, their conversion. But so far, the PPP government is concerned. We haven't seen it much in action. It's all about talk, but never walk the talk. So in this case, it is an alarming thing, like a gangster openly threatening, attacking the temples, mandirs, but on the other side, the government is still seems to be in a sleep and not providing enough security to the temples. This is unfortunate state of affair in Sindh. Like in Sindh, there's been the reports of different NGOs. An average 1,000 Hindu girls are converted forcefully annually, and still the figure is going up. Yeah, and the government doing nothing. And most cases are happening in such area, Gotki, Kashmir, where which are mostly populated by the Hindu population. But we are surprised why this comment, the PPP, which in other way around is a liberal outlook. Yeah, it's just PPP, like acting.
Bilkul, Zulkarnan, PPP, obviously, Pakistan's People's Party, Benazir Bhutto's party se aati thi, right?
Yeah.
So, the party which had Benazir Bhutto as the Prime Minister once upon a time, the party which obviously is now in coalition with the Sharifs in the ruling dispensation. It is surprising. Also, Zulkarnan, let us know, बताइए हमें कि क्या हाउ इज द सोसाइटी आउटलुक ऑल टुगेदर. क्या सोसाइटी में भी क्या इसको लेके कि फोर्सफुल कन्वर्शन करना चाहिए, यू हैव टू अटैक द टेम्पल्स, इज दैट ऑल्सो अ common scenario there in Pakistan, or is it just a handful of miscreants who are doing it?
The point is this, once you let it happen, it's been happening. So there has to be deterrence. The authorities need to act. What happens, as I put the figure, 1,000 girls converted to Islam annually, Hindu girls. But why not a single Muslim girl converted to Hinduism? Why not a one boy, Hindu boy, managed to convert? I mean, not falling in love with one Hindu girl, one Muslim girl, and manages to convert her to Hinduism. So the point is this: if you give them license to such elements, so this been happening. Here comes the role of the government.
Right, yeah. Zulkarnan, बहुत ही it's a very pertinent question. Nazia, I think you want to go to this Seema Haider story. Please, you can, if you want, you can ask a question to Zulkarnan, if you had one.
Definitely. Let me tell you one thing. I'm also Muslim, and if I'm telling regarding my family, we all are Muslims, like 5 pusht or 7 pusht. But no one told me that your loyalty will be acceptable in India when you converted in Sanatan Dharma or Hindu Dharma. No one told me. So let me tell you very clearly, the mission Seema Haider of Pakistan, she from day one, she always targeted and she always trying to be a hot cake to introduce herself that she want to be a Hindu, and she is given wo tulsi maa pe jal dena. This is all our drama. And one more thing, the Pakistan is strongly condemned in matter of Holy Quran burned in Sweden. Lots of temples often have been targeted of mob violence in Pakistan. Dozens of temples have been destroyed, located by river of Kotri, but still the Shehbaz Sharif is keep shut his mouth, and he didn't tell anything, not a single word.
Right, no word from the government.
I really wanted to tell one thing more. Really wanted to tell one
Quickly,
thing more.
Yes.
Hindu Dharma is a very passionate dharma. Hindu Dharma, like Shraddha, Vishwas, and Sanskari Dharma. So the drama which is created by the Seema Haider, we all are not convinced by her drama actually.
Right.
और अगर एक लड़की हिंदू बन गई है तो इतना बर्नआउट और बीटेक्स की जरूरत ही क्यों पड़ गई है भैया?
Nazia ji, you have made your point. Thank you so much. Dawoodi Sahab, I'll come to you, but let me quickly take a question from Zulkarnan because he joined us much later on the broadcast. Let me give him that benefit of time here, and also let me make it known to our viewers also that this whole issue of Seema Haider crossing over to India and coming to meet, we see it personally. I see it, as two human beings falling in love. That's what. Let me clarify it, and then taking the extreme step. Whether it is right or wrong, that authorities have to decide. Yes, Zulkarnan, talking about this whole episode, this particular aspect was the reason also. Warnings were given to the temples, to that area in Sindh, that because of this Seema Haider issue, there will be attacks. How is Pakistan viewing this whole issue as of now? Seema Haider crossing over to India.
Yeah. You see, Seema Haider issue is like any of like it, which needs a fodder for the extremists. Extremists are just waiting for such thing to happen, and then they start getting unleash their agenda of hitting the minorities, and this is exactly what's happening at the moment in the Gotki. So again, I would come back to the responsibility of the government, that it needs to take the extremist element hard. if they allow them, because you see, Seema Haider's case isn't something like not a big unusual thing. You know, the conditions in which I would say the people of the interior Sindh, and especially the minorities living in, so you see, like the conditions, the economic condition I'm talking of. At the same time, you see economic condition, the poor economic condition leads to other things.
Right.
Okay, fine. Seema falling in love with a Hindu boy of India and moving out there.
Nazia, I'll come to you. I'll come to you, Nazia. Carry on.
Yeah, that's not a big deal. The point is this: now this issue providing a perfect fodder to the extremist elements and the gangster as well. I don't know where come that gangster as well. They are attacking the temples, and the government is issuing that, oh, this is not a temple being attacked; it's a house. It's a house being attacked, and the man who hadn't provided the protection money protection money to the gangster. So government taking pride in saying this, in defending this thing. Okay, the Gunda Raj is over there. If you don't pay them protection money, they attack your houses. If we take the DPO's, district police officers version, today published in local media. So I fail to understand, such an issue, given, based on this, extremist elements taking on the minorities, and you are just justifying it. No, take on them. Earlier, there have been attacks on the temples in, in Punjab, bordering the Sindh as well. So the temples.
Yes, Zulkarnan, you have made your point. Please stay with us. Daudi Sahab, what Zulkarnan is mentioning, we must appreciate that he is one person who is calling a spade a spade. He is sticking his neck out and saying that the government is actually buying this argument that the place that has been attacked was a house, it was not a temple, and those who were given the responsibility to protect that house have finally, gone ahead and created some nuisance there. But this whole thing, once again, boils down to the fact that government is turning a blind eye to this situation. And be it the Sharif's government, be it PPP, be it Imran Khan's government, we have seen this happening in Pakistan with no questions being asked. How is this even justified within Pakistan and outside? Daudi Sahab.
First of all, they cannot justify this. This should not be justified. First thing, rather it should be accepted. I really appreciate you, in fact, said what I wanted to talk about, Mr. Zulfikar calling a spade. And I really, I'm surprised at the same time that what is there happening, it's being nicely and honestly presented by a correspondent from from there. Well, that's one thing, and we need honest people like that. And I appreciate you as well, your team, for having him there so that the viewers can have a clear picture of what is happening there in Pakistan.
True.
Now, about the governments being silent on this, it's not new. Be it Imran Khan's government or Shehbaz Sharif, or you talk about even the establishment or the ones who actually control all these kinds of activities and the actual leaders behind the scene. No one is sincere. You can't. When they say that it's not the temple that's being attacked, it's rather a house. Okay, now they are justifying that. We know that attacks on the temples and even on mosques, as I told you, it's a regular, recurrent, and it's a practice which can be seen in Pakistan every now and then. And at the same time, we see what kind of sincerity, whether we get any kind of reports where the governments there actually take serious actions against them. We still see that how the communities, especially the organizations that have some extremist approach, especially when I talk about TTP, TLP, etc., they still emerge as some of them are the leaders, some of them even try to take part in the being in the government there. So these are the things that actually I go back to what I was saying before. That should be the concerns of the global leaders and the countries and the international community. I know that there are a few things that are considered as the internal matters of one country. I respect that, and I want that no one should interfere in that. But when it comes to the complete disappearance of the minorities, the conversion and the kinds of problems, then there are channels, proper channels, and we should raise voices in a proper way.
Within a proper way. Point taken, Mr. Dawoodi. Nazia, you wanted to make a point there. Please go ahead.
Yes, I really wanted to tell that India having 200 million Muslims. Recently, Sheikh Al-Isa addressed a large congregation at Islam Center in Delhi, and he appreciated and he really say us that history and diversity about India, and he appreciate about the India having no discrimination in any caste and religion. But on the other hand, we can see most of the Hindus reside in Pakistan in Sindh province and have often complained of harassment by extremists, but no action till date. Since the independence to till date, no action has been taken. Rather, Shehbaz Sharif, Imran Khan, Benazir Bhutto, they even don't know, these Pakistani terrorists even don't know, and along with government don't know who murdered her earlier Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. They can't say about this.
Right. Nazia, well point. Zulkarnan, there are lots of things happening in the subcontinent itself. Now, politically, a very charged situation in Pakistan also. We heard that Nawaz Sharif would be coming back to Pakistan, maybe to contest elections, and his brother says that it will change the destiny of Pakistan. When we talk about destiny in Pakistan, Zulkarnan, is it only about a particular community, or is it the wholesome approach of changing the destiny, not just of a particular community, say for Muslims, what about Ahmadiyas, what about Baloch, what about Hindus there? Because a similar situation is happening in China also. There are particular sectors and sects which are being deprived of the basic rights. So help us understand, when we are expecting the change of destiny in Pakistan, what exactly are we looking at?
Yeah, you see, with the change of government, it may not have a greater impact. We have to see, as Pakistani, the fabric of our society. The unfortunate aspect is this, the extremist element. Extremist element means here the religious parties or the religious element, hardcore, which was, we have to go back in 1980s when General Zia watered them, founded them, and used them for his own purpose. Stamping on from Akhwan Jihad, and later on, subsequently, different parties, even like you see the current one, Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan's example. It was, being pampered by certain quarters to use for their political disposition, or political requirements. So, and they getting stronger by the day. And today, it's hardly anybody gonna challenge them. And for their side, you see such elements. They think the minorities, they take it in I would say in a primitive style of way, like even that example of converting Hindu girls. They take it as like they're doing a sawab. They earning heaven by doing so. So and there are recent cases of, in Ahmadis, their worship places being destroyed partially. The minarets they cannot use because under the law they are not Muslim, so they cannot use the minarets. And of late we've seen that like TLP elements openly challenging the police. You destroy it, or we're gonna demolish it by ourselves. So you see, this is in this sense, every the government and the establishment will have to be on the one page to take on the extremist elements. They don't have to pamper them. They have to rein in them. In fact, unless you won't do it, such elements getting stronger. And even one such case like Seema, you see such elements propping up and taking advantage of it and executing their agenda.
Right.
And you see, and showing that extremist picture of Pakistan. This is very unfortunate.
Which is not,
as a whole.
Yeah,
just like as a whole, the majority of the population is peace-loving, wanna give equal rights to the minorities, but again, the handful of the extremists, a big handful.
Right. Point taken, Zulkarnan. Nazia, I'm sure you have a lot to comment on what Zulkarnan has said, but before that, very quickly, Dawoodi Saab, you have been living for the last 2 decades in Middle East and Gulf regions. You have seen the world from a different perspective. You have seen India also, and you have seen neighboring Pakistan also. When Zulkarnan, our esteemed guest here, says that because of the government apathy towards these criminal elements, they have started raising their head once again. Do you believe that any country should be legitimizing it in the first place? Secondly, have you seen any other example like this going on somewhere else in the world? You'll have to unmute yourself, sir. Dawoodi Saab, you have to unmute yourself. Well, looks like Mr. Dawoodi, if you can hear us, you have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry. Loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. The first thing is no country should legitimize it, first thing. And if anyone does that, there are a few, the closest friends of Pakistan, they always try to do that. In some cases, they try to, but there should be some sort of honesty, and they should say that honestly, they should present it in a righter way. Anyways, that is one thing. I have not seen similar situations in any other West Asian countries or other countries where we can see that they are trying to have these sorts of severe problems within. That is one thing. If the government there or the establishment there, if they are really sincere, then the relationship between India and Pakistan would have been, much better, in the past and even now. Because what we have our own stand and position that we cannot have dialogues and talks until they have proper checks with the extremists and the terrorism, etc. Because terror and talks cannot go hand in hand.
Terror and talks cannot go hand in hand. Absolutely.
At the same time, and they do not listen to that, and they are bringing other issues, and they don't want. Because they do not want to have proper relationship with India as well. And if they start having the kind of good relations, trust me, the people there, the citizens of Pakistan will be benefited, and the governments don't understand. And they rather promote these kinds of extremism and terrorism, and they, in fact, they give them a kind of free hand, which is a big concern. If some fringe elements, for example, they are doing something, take severe actions and let the world know about that, instead of just giving them more opportunities and
by doing lip service. Dawoodi Saab, point taken. Nazia, as promised, I'll give you the final word. One question from Zulkarnan. Zulkarnan, Mr. Dawoodi mentioned that there are friends of Pakistan where we see who legitimize these actions. I think he was referring to China, and with China we talk about Uyghur Muslims. Uyghurs, Muslims, the way they have been persecuted in China, no one has asked questions. Do you think the same thing is happening with the minorities in Pakistan?
Yes, sorry. This is for me or
Yes,
for Nazir?
Zulkarnan, to you.
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. I was talking about the Uyghur Muslims in China. The situation that they are in right now, is the similar situation, similar fate being meted to the minorities in Pakistan also?
A very interesting question, and this response should be a bit guarded one from me.
I can understand.
You see, in terms of comparison with that of, I think here when such thing happens, then the immediate brunt the minorities have to face. Like this Hindu minority is facing this brunt of the Seema episode. So otherwise, life goes on a bit normal.
Okay.
But unfortunately, this such things happening every now and then. So you see, they are facing tough life here. They're facing tough life here. If I talk about Ahmadis, I talk about Hindus. So tough.
Zulkarnan, having said that, they have, as you and I both would agree, they have all the right to be there, and it's the onus on the government to give them protection and make them, as you say, very honestly, that life should go on very normal for them. Nazia, final word to you. You being a woman on the panel, we appreciate your presence here. The final word to you, because it's not just about Hindu or Muslim, it's about the conversion, and also especially the women folk who are suffering in the name of being minority. Nazia.
Definitely. The entire Hindu women, the entire Yahudi women, the entire Wahhabi women are suffering in Pakistan since many years. This Jakrani Kabila is not came up front after the episode and chapter of Seema Haider. This Jakrani Kabila have already created so many obnoxious environments, and they already did so many terrorism activities earlier. But the Pakistani government are still quiet. This is kind of provocation. This quiet nature is a kind of provocation. 30 Hindus are still kidnapped, but no legal action by the Pakistani government. Even the Pakistani government is not saying or giving any statement to search them, to rescue them from the terrorists. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan is continuously issued a notice or a representation or submitting complaint letters or grievance letters since many years. But no repercussion, no positive vibes are coming from the Pakistan government.
Right, very well point put forward there, Nazia. Thank you so much. It's Ahmadiyas for the Baloch there in the country.
Gautam Adani, one of the richest men in the world, or a business honcho, accused of manipulating the market.
अदानी जी 609 नंबर से दूसरे नंबर तक कैसे पहुंचे? सिर्फ एक सवाल पूछा, नरेंद्र मोदी जी, आपका अदानी जी से रिश्ता क्या है?
He has given the space, the railways, the airport, which he has no experience also. So the country is